Hello, everybody, and welcome to VFR. Today, we are here on the ground at a still rather snowy Anchorage International Airport, PANC, and we are going to be taking our trusty DC-6 from PMDG on a multi-trip hop here in a more modern setting. So we're going to be going from Anchorage up to Fairbanks, and then on from Fairbanks, we're going to carry on to Galena, which is a little bit up the river, so about an hour in each leg. We're going to be fully loaded with cargo today. And yeah, I'm just scratching that PMDG itch I have with all the 737 stuff going around, obviously. I don't have my hands on it. And, but we're eagerly awaiting that, so figure we hop in the DC-6. But do a little bit more modern setting, something I haven't explored that much. They do still fly DC-6s in the world today. So it is worth exploring. We're going to be on VATSIM today for what little it's worth. Up here in Alaska, there's not a ton of ATC coverage, as you might expect. But we will be on VATSIM. We'll be here at Anchorage, and we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Pretty simple flights for today. Again, about an hour, straight up to Fairbanks, and then on to Galena. And we will be using whatever modern accessories we have to make our lives easier. So we're about all loaded up with cargo. We can start closing up the shop and getting ready with the getting the airplane ready for departure. So let's head over to the EFB real quick. Weather today, Ted Stevens, Anchorage Airport. VFR, 50 degrees, broken clouds. 6-knot winds, 180. And altimeter of 2974.
Oil coolers and cow flaps. Water and position. Fuel and fluids.
So 2974, that looks about good. Okay, so looking at Anchorage some more. This is our airport here. Basically, we have an east-west runway and a north-south runway. We're going to be using the north-south today with those winds. We'll go up to runway 15, depart out to the south, loop back around to the north, and pick up our track into Fairbanks. Now, I have made the flight plan here in SkyVector. It is pretty simple. We're going to basically depart out on direct to the Big Lake VOR, BGQ, and then just follow V438 north to Liber. And at that point, we will be breaking off and shooting our approach into Fairbanks. Again, we may have to loop around and come in. They're probably landing south, but we will see.
Set to idle. Propellers. Forward and 3.
So while they're doing that, we can get all set up in here. This is going to be a little bit...
Start engines.
All right, so they're ready for me. And I need to be ready for them, and I need to go back to SkyVector. And so today, again, no pretense about being old school or no pretense about being old school today. We're going to P. Which, again, sometimes that's what I want, but nowadays, just watching a lot of 737 stuff, I just want to fly some modern... I'm more excited for cargo than anything else. I don't feel like I have a good cargo airplane to fly. Tank, where we are. Up to BCQ, I should say. Up to B. C. Q. If I can do my... alphabets. Should be there, shouldn't it? Oh, BGQ. Well, I was right the first time. BGQ. Very exciting as you punch this in. Thanks for coming along tonight. Again, we're just kind of taking it a little bit easy in the VFR land at the moment. We're going to get on this, and I need to go to... So just what I'm doing is basically looking at SkyVector and figuring out where I need to go. Now, I'm not going to punch in the actual airway here. If you can do that, I don't really know how, but we can go to, like, Suez. R E and S, and we want PA, I think, because that's going to be because airports around us start with P. And again, a lot of times, especially on these, you'll see K4 or a K, which is a good hint to tell you you're looking at a United States area thing. Not always, but, and I'm not sure how those codes work exactly. But when in doubt, I look for the one closest to an airport that you would recognize. Okay, Liber, L-I-B-E. I guess it could be Liber. E-R. And we're going to go with PA on this one too. And then we're going straight to PAFA. Fairbanks International, P-A-F-A. P-A-F-A. Fairbanks International. Okay. So there's our flight plan with no map, but we do have GPS navigation here for what we need to do. Now, radio-wise, 122.8 because we're going to be on VATSIM. And I believe we are connected. It's 122.8, and let us get set up. So we got 122.8. We got all that in, and now if we wanted to be... We also have a VOR at Fairbanks, and we'll tune in the VOR the old school way too at Big Lake. So that is on my nav radio 125. And we will track that inbound about 347. Inbound about 347. I hear noises. What's going on out around us? So we are here at Anchorage. I do have a freeware scenery from flightsim.to. I will have to dig up. It's the popular Anchorage one. I believe we also have should have some freeware scenery at Fairbanks as well when we get in there. Anthony explains K prefix is for continental U.S. and P is for the Pacific area, which they apparently consider Alaska a part of. Yeah, essentially, yep. And K would be the I'm not sure how they handle Canadian ones. If Canadians get their own, if Canadian waypoints in Canadian airspace would be good to see, but again, it's all based on it's all region based. Travis says got to fly to Point Minto. Point Minto. Is that on my track? And I'm just not putting it in. Got Kwin. Or maybe that's part of the approach into Fairbanks. So I picked out Liber 4. That's we have a GPS on board, so we can do that. We're gonna spend more time staring at the EFB today than anything else. That puts us at 8,900 feet. And then we'll probably, I'd imagine we're going to be landing north into Fairbanks. Localizer 110.3. But we shall see. Well, we can guess, but let's actually look and see what Papa. No, that's not right. Papa. And I want to see the METAR. We got no wind at Fairbanks, so calm, VFR, a little overcast, 2971. So we'll probably tune in the ILS and see where that gets us, but that will be what it's doing. Canada would be C, as in CYQX for Gander, if I recall. So yeah, that would make sense. That would cover a lot of the northern part of that world where a lot of planes fly through. So And there are the number between, but so if you're looking at those waypoints in your Garmin, it comes up with like a K4 or a K6, depending on where you're in, whether you're in the northeastern U.S. or western U.S. or here we got I can't think it was PA for probably Alaska. But anyway, who knows? It is all very, very interesting how they come up with these systems. All right. I think the AFE said we're ready for start a while ago. They're sitting there twiddling their thumbs. So let's see, and let's dust off some ready for start stuff. We got boost pump on 3. We got engine selected 3. We're going to select both. I am glad we have an electric starter in this one after our troubles with the other one, the Boeing 247. It is nice to have an electric start. And then once we've started up, let's come down to the center panel. We do have fuel pressure. And we will basically jump down there, give it some mixture after we have some good blades. So we'll hit start, be ready to hit boost and prime.
9, 12.
Oops. Boost, prime, all the way down. Mixture in 3. Anything? Nope, it's just spinning lifelessly. Okay. That is fine. Three, both. Start, we'll let that pop back in. Just outside of, okay, so Minto is just outside of Fairbanks, slightly out of the way. Well, what isn't out this way? Flew there for when KC-135s. Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Anthony, yeah, E, Northern Europe. L would be Southern, yeah. And then I can't remember a lot of them. I can't remember what Africa is. Isn't the Middle East O? And I can't remember what. Australia's Y. That's the only other one I can pull out of my off the top of my head. And Mexico, I think, is M. All right, let's give this another try. We're really listening for 9. I waited too long on that one.
6, 9.
Boost prime. And there it's going, and we'll give it some mixture. Custom view is still a little wonky, but we've got engine 3. It's looking pretty good. Okay. Now up top, starting engine 4, we'll go to low, select 4, magnetos to both. Verify we have fuel pressure, we do. And we can go ahead and start it up.
3, 6, 9.
Boost, prime, come on down. Mixture to auto and watch our needles. I'll jiggle the throttles too. Sometimes they just don't line up, so we'll jiggle the throttles a little bit to make sure A, throttles work, and B, the engines are still on. All right. 2 down. Engine number 2. It is not very cold today. There really shouldn't be too much snow on the ground. 50 degrees, so no real abnormal conditions to be starting in, especially for a plane like this that's flown out here for so long. All right, that's 2. We can start. You can set the mixture to rich ahead of engaging the starter if you like.
9,
Interesting.
12.
It makes me feel like I'm doing more. I feel like that's how I first learned it and then started doing it this way. And I'm not exactly sure why. So we got 2 now at 12. That's not the atmospheric pressure, so that's a good sign. 1 more. Magnetos to both. And engine selector to 1.
3, 6, 9.
Boost prime. And that looks like 4 decent engines. Just check I got prop control too. Okay. Going between jets. I have 3 axes on my joystick, and one, when I'm flying the CRJ, I map it to the speed brake, so I just need to make it go. And then, yeah, Anthony, I know in some GA planes, you keep the mixture kind of cut off and then add it after you've started up. I don't know how much of... I don't even know where I learned that anymore. But yeah, it seems to work. But yeah, I do seem to remember it working the other way too, with just running mixture. Okay, we have started up. Let's go after start checklist, and I gotta wrap my brain around what's going on here at Anchorage. So we're at Pank. I think we're the only folks. Nope, that's not true. We are not alone. We have a United 280 in from Denver. That's a Boeing 737-8.
Emergency lights. Armed.
And
Ground power.
we go over to Sim Toolkit Pro.
After start checks complete.
So it should be a non-factor. We're actually up here kind of where we want to be by runway 15. So it's going to be a pretty simple taxi and out to the runway. And now that's going to be, just for my notes, really I'm going to be a good Batson pilot, and we're going to be VTS. That's Everts 1600. We are Anchorage going to Fairbanks, and we're probably going to end up taxiing to runway 15 via Sierra Romeo, Quebec. And we'll be departing to the north. Okay. So that's all pretty good. Fuel injected engine start with mixture idle cutoff. That is it. Yep, that's right. Okay. All right, do I have enough room to swing it, or are we going to need a bit of help? I don't think I have room to swing it. Okay. And now that we're all set here, I'm not... Sometimes you get wonky behavior when you try to... when I try to reverse out, it usually works, but not always, so... In the names of stability, we will do this. Where's the latch? Open up the window just cause. And again, this is freeware scenery, so it just adds a little bit of detail to some of the cargo ramps here at Anchorage. Very nice. That'll be good enough for now. We can stop pushback. And turn on to the right. All right. Once we get out onto the taxiway, we can go ahead and hit before takeoff. Get all set. We'll brief the departure and get on our way. So thank you all for coming along tonight. We are, again, here in the PMDG DC-6, doing a little bit of PMDG modern action. Flying our DC-6 up to... let me close my window. From here at Anchorage up to Fairbanks, and then we'll pick it up at Fairbanks, keep on going to Galena. Now, our fuel and load, I haven't discussed it, but I programmed it in a little bit before we started. We've got about 21,000 pounds in our main cargo hold and 3,000 underneath. Those radials are a good sound. And did I, no, I have not. Okay, that's all latched. We're good. All right, so before takeoff checks,
Boost pumps.
we'll go ahead and slow it down.
Boost pumps on low. Fuel selector and crossfeed. Main tanks and crossfeed off. Autopilot and carb heat. Off and cold. Hydraulic system. Down, forward, pressure and quantity checked. Okay. Flaps 20.
And just do a quick scan. Now, just running through this in my head, we're going to basically hold on the brakes. They'll bring power up full power.
20.
We will release the brakes.
Turbine.
We'll speed up to about 100 knots, at which point we will gently rotate off the runway. And we will plan on turning...
Closed and on.
We'll maintain runway heading for a little bit,
Gust lock released.
and then we will go ahead and turn.
On.
We'll hold 149 and then turn 201. Will be roughly what we're aiming for.
Bridge unlocked.
And then we'll climb up and head out to Big Lake after that.
On. Landing lights. Before takeoff checks complete.
Alright, we are ready to rock. I did not tell anyone we were taxiing, so that's bad pilot on me. But, again, I think we're the only people at Anchorage right now. So, for posterity, for the tapes, we are Everett 1600. We are departing, we're going to take 15, departing out to the north for Anchorage traffic. Anchorage traffic, Everett 1600. We are taking runway 15, departing out to the north, Anchorage. Okay, so let's roll on out here. And I should, well, I was talking about load and weight. We should have gotten that, and we're going to get a little stutter. That's another thing I've been actually trying to do right now is play with some performance settings too. Just in case. It looks like the 737's been running pretty smoothly on people's computers, but you never know. This airplane has gotten me down in the 20s in terms of FPS. So we're at 100 and, no, what are we at? Gross weight 98,000 pounds, so that's going to be a wet takeoff. So let's go ahead and do it. Again, we're going to be going heading 147, so that's about right. And then we'll turn right, and we'll just basically loop right, and then track that Big Lake VOR.
30 inches, stabilized. Cal flaps. Cal flaps. Cal flaps set. Full power, please. Going full power.
We're just holding on the brakes. We're into overboost.
Full power set.
And that's my cue. Just a skosh right rudder. And that's going to be 80 knots coming up. Here we're heavy, but not exceptionally heavy today. No more than this airplane has seen. We're not pushing the envelope very much.
Gear up. Gear selected up. Gear up. Lights out. Pipes up.
Oops, I did that for him.
Meter power. Setting meter power 48 inches, 2600 RPM.
Oh, we're losing some altitude here. And there's our climb. So, yeah, I don't know. Doesn't feel like anything's really changed, and the power's coming back a little bit, but that's all right. We're looking good, 170 knots.
Meter power set. Climb power. Setting climb power.
Alright, and while they're doing that, we're going to start our loop off to the right. Just a gentle turn.
Climb power set. Enter takeoff checklist, please. After takeoff checks complete.
Anchorage traffic, Everett 1600 is clear, 1-5. We are going direct, Big Lake. Last call, Anchorage. Alright, so we're in the air, nothing's blown up yet, which is good. We're going to basically keep on heading right. And I'll kind of vector myself around a little bit. But we're essentially just going to turn. And keep turning and keep climbing is the goal. So keep turning and keep climbing. So we'd have to go 347 to go direct to Big Lake, which is what we'll aim for here. So we'll come over the airport a little bit. We do have the radio coming in here, so we did tune that to Big Lake VOR. But we're a little off the course as far as the GPS is concerned. Alright, so I'm still hand flying. We can go ahead and get our gyro pilot working. Activate gyro pilot, give him control. Keep this thing coming up. But not, well, we have some speed to go. So, we're in the air. The delicate part is, for the most part, done. Getting a little slow now, so let's bring the nose down. I said the delicate part's done. I shouldn't have said that. Alright. So here comes the radial too. So we're still in GPS mode, or I think we are. Are we in CDI? No, we're in VLOC. So we're actually following the nav right now. Let's go over to GPS and toss it into localizer mode. And it should hopefully follow this, this quote localizer. And we are altitude check, climbing through 4,000 now. Our final cruise altitude, we can shoot for something along the lines of... We just take a look at Sky Vector. What do we need as far as the VFR chart's concerned? Something above 8,000. Obviously, with 20,000 is probably a bit much, but something above 8,000. So it's about an hour flight, so maybe 14,000 to 16,000, and we'll play it by ear from there. Not super long, so I don't know if we really want to go all the way up, but we can if we need to. All right, so let's check our gauges. Do we have 4 engines? We do. We have a reasonable BMEP. Air temperature's a little low, so as we hit this clouds, we can go ahead and fire up our anti-ice stuff. Turn our windshield heat on. We're at 0 C. I think. Yeah. I don't think I have that as a quick view. Turn up the cockpit temp a little bit. Do a floodlight. So that's on. And then we don't really need prop de-ice. We'll turn the heaters on just in case. That's 5,000 feet. We are climbing, not at any great clip. I can give it another notch here. And we're climbing at 40 inches of manifold pressure, so they should be inching the throttles forward as we go. And climb on out. So thanks again for coming with us. If you're just joining us, we are Everett 1600, doing some modern air cargo ops, flying the DC-6 from PMDG. Out of Anchorage, we're heading up to Fairbanks, and then from Fairbanks, we're going to Galena. Now, Anchorage to Fairbanks probably wouldn't be flown, and certainly not today, by a DC-6. Not regularly, at least. That's two pretty significant airports that, accompany real big jet traffic. But Fairbanks to Galena is a real DC-6 flight that Everett's operated just this week. So again, you kind of forget planes like this are flying still, and they are in 2022. And I hope it's, if anyone's in Alaska knowledgeable, I'm saying Galena, like Illinois, but could be some other pronunciation. I don't know. I don't speak Alaskan. Right, so everything's humming along. GPS is tracking. We are still in 122.8. We're not busting anyone's airspace, I hope. We do have some friends out here. There is a Northern Air Cargo DC-6 out of Juneau, and UAL-8 is kind of over our area too. That is a 787 out of Newark, heading for Anchorage. Again, we are on VATSIM today. Not super highly, a highly trafficked part of the network, but it is interesting. And just kind of a little bit of low pressure VATSIM action. I think this might be the first time I've flown a DC-6 on VATSIM. Not sure. It's one of those things I always say I want to do and then hop in the CRJ. And yeah, it's been a little slower around VFR lately. Really just kind of looking forward to 737 from PMDG. I think that's going to be the next big thing. Been really enjoying the CRJ lately, and looking forward to stepping up into a new, larger airliner. I'm not someone who's flown the fly-by-wire A320 a whole lot. I kind of jumped into CRJ. But, so I haven't gone back and relearned that one. So I've kind of been holding off on a larger airliner. But trying to scratch that PMDG itch with this DC-6 here. And we're not a cruise yet. We're climbing through 8,000 feet. Getting a little slower. And they should be moving the throttles still automatically. Now, as far as fuel is concerned, we have basically full mains and then 1,000 pounds in each aux tank, which is more than we should need for this this route, but we shall see. Alaska is just such a big place, such a big place, such a big aviation place. There's so much unique aviation stuff that happens in Alaska, and it's such a big area. It's kind of intimidating. I've looked at starting a SimPilot's Guide to Alaska, and it's just hard to know where to begin with a project like that. Trying to introduce some of the things that happen in aviation out in Alaska. Some of the geography, some of the different places you can go. It is just a large chunk to bite off. Very cool. Now, we will fly past what I think is the third tallest peak in the world, Denali, the largest in North America. That will be on our left here as we fly out of Anchorage. That'll be really the main terrain obstacle. That's the 20,000 we saw on the VFR charts. 20,000 feet, so we will be well below Denali if we end up at 14,000. Well below the summit. Alright, so that's Big Lake, and at this point the GPS should be taking us now to Suarez. And with waypoints like this, my understanding is it basically just treats it like a VOR and feeds that VOR into the localizer mode of the onboard autopilot of the DC-6, which is kind of neat. It's tricking it into thinking that that's a localizer, kind of. Because the DC-6 system doesn't really know any better. The gyropilot doesn't know any better. Now, we're going to offload most of our cargo at Fairbanks, but some of it is going to kind of stay with us. We'll take on some more once we get to Fairbanks, and then that'll take us on to the secondary flight. Other places that the DC-6s kind of fly around here. Looks like there's a flight from Fairbanks to Fort Yukon, FYU. I'm not sure where that is. I'm seeing it now in Sky Vector. Let's go into flight. So if we were to keep going north, we would hit Fort Yukon. That would probably be another 45 minutes to an hour up the road here at Fort Yukon. What else? And I'm just looking at Flight Radar 24 for these, basically. That was on the 21st of April, so 2 days ago. Yeah. Fairbanks to Fort Yukon, and then they had a couple more going on, too. So we're cruising through some clouds. We do have a bit of a snow line here. Fairbanks weather, we looked at that. It's about the same as Anchorage, 50 degrees, calm winds. They're saying overcast at 11,000. So we may be in the soup a little bit. May have to bump it up to 16,000. But we'll go ahead and level off at 14,000 and evaluate where we're at that point. While we're doing this, one thing we can do is switch over ChartFox to PAFA. We're going to technically be on an RNAV Liber 4 arrival, and Fairbanks is... Winds are calm at Fairbanks. We might as well go straight into... What is that? 2 left? Runway 2 left at Fairbanks. So to brief Fairbanks a little bit. Fairbanks is 1 runway. Runway 2 left, 20. Oh, there's a small one over here. 2 right or 20 left. That's 11,000. It's 202 left. We're going to go on the long one, obviously, but if we come straight in for 2 left, that'll basically be it. So if we would go in here, we can pick up the ILS. We'll pick up the ILS localizer for 2 left. And essentially that's taking us from glows and basically onto the beam, and the localizer is going to be, let me write this down, 109.1. This is going to be the loc, and Fairbanks is going to be, the actual airport VRR is going to be 108.6, just in case. 108.6, so that's all looking good. So we'll basically shoot that ILS. We could fly the RNAV too. Wouldn't matter terribly much. Coming up on 12,000 now. The big thing I find I forget to do is actually put it in cruise checklist. So running the cruise checklist just means you're running at a higher power setting than you probably should for the entire flight. But on a short hour or two flight like this, hopefully that doesn't jam up the works too much. And that's a good view. I do like the Everett's tail. That's a really nice tail design. You start to see the Alaska Range off of our behind us. That'll eventually rise up to Denali. And that's essentially what we're crossing over to get to Fairbanks. 12,500. And I'm honestly saying the altitude's out loud more for myself than anything else, without a big magenta flashing light telling me I'm stopping. It's easy to miss. So just as part of the scan, everything's pointing in the right direction. RPMs look good. Nothing seems crazy out of line. It's all looking okay. And into some cloud cover. So that's 13,000 feet, 1,000 more feet. At about 13.5, we'll start leveling off here. And then much higher than that, we'll start to bring in the superchargers, but we'll run that. We'll run that manually once we get there. Yeah, Anthony, that is... there can't be that many of them, I guess, but over the years, you'd think. But I think there's, what, 6? I think they have 6 DC-6s running now, kind of contemporarily. And there used to be some other operators, too. I'm sure, and, you know, I'm sure someone from that world has probably been involved in development. I would not be surprised about that. I imagine PMDG has some DC-6 guys on there. If not on their staff, at least they've talked to them. And we're leveling off now. I don't know why. That's 13,700 feet. We'll keep it going up. And that is going to be about as good as one could hope for. All right. That is pretty good. We can throw it into altitude hold mode now. And we're riding in this cloud layer just a little bit. So I'm going to step away for just a second. I'll leave you with some sounds of big radials. I'll be right back. All right, we are back. Sorry about that, everybody. Captain's drink needed a refresh. We are still in one piece, I see. 14,000 feet, more or less, so that's pretty good. And we're up to speed, so
Set cruise power, please.
let's run the cruise checklist.
Power.
So, Anthony, I'm not familiar with what Mike Ray has written. Is that a guide for an airplane? I know of some guides. I know there's been a few people who've done really in-depth stuff about 737s and those other airplanes. Would be cool to see that deep dive into the DC-6. Oops, and I got halfway out.
Cruise checks are complete.
All right, so we're now in cruise. And I'm just putting in my call sign or my file at 14,000. Flight plan and VAT zone. Just for completeness' sake. And it looks like we may have another DC-6 coming out. I'm not familiar with the call sign SPC, but should be fun. Mike wrote books. I think I have seen some of those books now that you mention that. Written by an airline pilot for Flight Sim. I can't remember who was talking about that. But that would be a very cool thing for the DC-6. Would be a very cool thing indeed. Yeah, and I'm sure those airliners, yeah. I'm sure those are very useful. It's getting quite mountainous. You can see the high mountains off our left wing. And then we'll basically, it should open up to some lower lands. What is Fairbanks is at a cool 400-foot elevation. So we're going to kind of cross these mountains here and descend on into Fairbanks. Now, one thing to think about: we're at 14,000 feet now. So if I write down. And then the ILS we're eyeing into Fairbanks is to left. That's a top altitude. We got 2,600 feet or above, so we can call that 3,000. We'll aim for 3,000 on descent. So we need to lose 11,000 feet. And 11,000 feet times 5 should be 55 nautical miles before we hit our destination. Let's see, are there any restrictions on LIBOR 4? So I guess we want to be at above 7,100 at glows, which probably gives us our kind of top altitude. Let's go into approach, prox here. We will select our arrival as the Liber 4. No transitions available, and we're going to go to left, I think. Before I hit push, let's look at upgraded weather real quick. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So we'll load that arrival, and then our approach. We're going to be looking at, not that one. You see, I'm turning. I shouldn't be turning. This is why you put it into gyropilot before you do that. Who knows where it's taking me now. And we'll take the ILS for 2 left. And we want the glows transition, I believe. Okay, so back to flight plan. What is it? What's it doing to me here? Let's take me Liber to Kawane, which is backwards. I want to go direct to Liber. All right, so let's get straightened out here. Let's aviate. Let's do a little aviating first, and just kind of point ourselves north. Broadly speaking. And then from our flight plan, we want to go straight to Liber. I think. And that's in about 66 miles, so that looks okay. And I screwed it up. Okay. Let's try that out. So this should take me to Liber, hopefully. And then go into the arrival. So crisis averted. Maybe. We are still at 14,000 feet. We're a little slow, but that's okay. Yeah, Anthony, I had heard that story, I think. That was from, or I heard it when Rob was talking to, Sky Blue Radio, I think it was. Where they basically created all these manuals. And that turned into PMDG eventually. Yeah, 14,000. He started flying an aeronautical Jurassic Park at Miami International. Interesting. They left him in Miami to rot, huh? Yeah, I could see how that would happen. And there used to be a lot of these things flying around. Not many left. Still 14,000. We're still pointed in generally the right direction. And so what I think happened... Well, I'm not sure what happened. It put me direct to a waypoint that was behind me. Suarez to Kawane, but that shouldn't be on the arrival, is it? Oh, it is. Okay, I see. So basically, the Liber 4 starts all the way back at Kawane, which we had passed, and then it's 60 miles to Liber here, so that's why it tried to turn us around there when I punched that in. I probably should have done that before we left. But yeah, working with the GNS 430, not even the moving map, is its own challenge. Now, for fun, we could punch in the Fairbanks VOR, and Fairbanks is going to be on. I wrote it down. Frequency 108.6. 108.6. And that's showing 100 miles from Fairbanks right now, so about right. And then just for fun, the ILS will be on frequency 109.1. Oh, I see what you're saying. They left, those operators left town or went to jets. They didn't leave the airplanes there. But they were flying into the Caribbean every night. Really? That's fascinating. That would be those would be some fun flights, I'm sure. Just moving these DC-6s. And all those old big prop liners. Alright, so that's 180. Thanks for coming along. If you're just joining us, we are heading in we're doing a PMDG DC-6 flight as we wait to scratch our 737-inch. Flying from Anchorage, PANC, up to Fairbanks, PAFA, and from there we'll do a turnaround on the ground at Fairbanks and head up to Galena. Projected arrival in about 25 minutes. So we really we'll need 55 miles from a certain point. That'd basically be glows at 7,000. So thinking about when to start coming downhill. We do basically have a couple more ridges out this way, which are gonna kind of hold us up until, well, until we get relatively close. So we will have to step on it and lose some speed, and if we gotta hold somewhere, we can do that. Well, basically aim for that 7,000 at glows, which will be right after Liber. Yeah. Lancer, I am looking forward to it. I've just been flying the wheels off the CRJ lately, and I've been enjoying the airliner stuff more and more, but I'm kind of committed to MSFS in terms of sim. I don't really want to jump into X-Plane at the moment. So I'm kind of a committed MSFS guy, where I just, yeah, might pick up X-Plane 12 when that comes out, but you might be better off with FSX, your FSX version. And if you have the FSX version, man, that's probably pretty good too, I would imagine. I mean, yeah, these sims are just platforms that you invest in and really start building it up. And once you have a good setup built up in any sim, and it would be compelling, I think. It may not be worth the money to you, I don't know. Definitely is to me, though. I've enjoyed the DC-6, certainly. And since this is kind of my flagship sim, I'm willing to invest a little in it. Yeah, and it is crazy looking at some of the old flight sim games. Well, what they've been able to do with the world, and how well it pulls in. It really is quite an accomplishment just to get it at this level, just out of the box. I mean, this is nothing, no fancy stuff here. So, and then we're starting to see that overcast come in. It's a little higher than we're expecting at Fairbanks. Okay, there's a 3-knot wind now. Wind picking up a little bit. Altimeter still 29 or 71. No need to switch just yet. So as now we're about 75 miles from Fairbanks now. So I'm thinking once we're just a little bit further up here, we can start our descent down to 7,000 feet, and that will kind of start us off into the approach. So let's go up here. Then we got Kwin, Liber. We need to delete some of these. Oops, I shouldn't have done that. I didn't learn my lesson. Don't know why I do that. Okay. Liber, and that's going to take us into Pefa. Now, is that what it says on the chart? Not really. But no, okay, so the approach is going to take us to Glows. Okay, so that lines up with kind of what I'm seeing here. Again, I haven't done a whole lot of super IFR flying with this thing, so we're still fumbling a little bit. Liber at 8,900, Glows at 7,100. No top altitude restrictions, so to be at 9,000 at Liber would be pretty good. If I go back to my well, we're about 20 miles now, 14,000 feet, so I think we can begin our descent now. Again, we'll shoot for about 9,000, but make sure that that needle is still in. Yeah, okay. So altitude can come out, altitude hold can come off, and we'll just start coming downhill a little bit. We'll shoot between the 500 and 1,000 foot mark. And I'm still on EFB, so that's not going to help us see anything. That is quite a long time, Anthony, quite a long time. That is one of the nice things about this this hobby. A lot of people have seen a lot of things. This whole flight sim thing has some staying power. This whole gaming thing has some staying power. All right, we're down 500 to 1,000 feet now. And I'm not going to go into descent just yet, so we can let our... We'll take advantage of whatever speed the airplane can give us. So we head for labor. Things looking pretty good. 14 nautical miles now. And again, we're good at anything above 9,000 or 8,900. So we've got some room to work with. But Corbin, thank you very much. I'm glad you've been enjoying some of the videos, and appreciate the well wishes. It is getting late out there, but this again, yeah, well, this will be posted later if you do want to see the end, see if we actually make it or not. If we stick this landing, we will see. Thanks for coming along, bud. All right. We went down 500. We can go down to 1,000 feet per minute, I think. And realistically, we'll probably be at 11 or 10 or 11,000 when we cross. Maybe less. We'll just keep it going downhill. And now we're pretty firmly descending, so let's go ahead and have them bring the power back. So 26 inches on descent.
26 inches set. Descent checkpoints, please. Altimeters and flight instruments. Cross-checked.
Now we are going to be kind of fast coming in here.
Seatbelt signs on.
So if we have to do some left 360, we can do that. That's not a problem.
Engine low is low. Low. Descent checks are complete.
And for other traffic, we should. Oh yeah, not there's. I don't think there's anyone in range, but you never know. We are Everett 1600, singing to PAFA, Liver 4. And we are descending through a cool 10,000 here. So that's glows now. And we're definitely not gonna be low and slow enough at this point. Fairbanks traffic, Everett 1600, descending via Liver 4 through 10,000 for the ILS runway 2 left, Fairbanks. So hold on here. We're cruising pretty fast. And again, it's hard when you go back to GPS waypoints, just because you don't have the constant. You do have the distance, but it's not as much in front of you. You're not thinking so much in terms of points. So we probably should have started our descent a ways back. This kind of snuck up on me a skosh. But we've still got nice long waypoints between us, I think. We've got another 20 miles to glows, which is going to be the kind of start of our ILS approach here. So we have a chance of making it down to about 7,000 at glows, 7,100, and then 5,000 at Ursa. And then glows should spit us out on about a 20-mile final for the runway. So So the DC-7 had a speed brake. The main gear would extend without the nose wheel. Interesting. Well, yeah, landing gear, I mean, as long as it's a safe speed to put your gear out, landing gear is quite an effective... that's 7,000 right there. So, yeah, landing gear is quite an effective speed brake. So that makes a lot of sense. That's a nice, efficient design. 7,000 feet, so let's bleed some speed here. Anthony, 5 times altitude loss is probably a good one, yeah. So my formula for this one's usually, it's 5 times the altitude loss, like you said, plus 20 for slowing down. Which I conveniently left out of this calculation. We're at 36 miles from Fairbanks now. And, 7,000 feet. Still about 10 miles to Glows. We'll just lose some speed. Get that under control. And again, this isn't, not... DC-6 is operating into this airport is a real thing that happens, so this is not a particularly unfriendly approach or arrival for DC-6s. Nice long final. Nice long stretch down here. So it may well work out. We're down here at 7,300. Which is about where we want to be. After that, we got a low of 5,000 and then down to 4,100 and then 2,600 to start the ILS. But at that point, again, we'll be using the localizer. So thanks for coming along. If you're just joining us, we are heading into Fairbanks. We've begun our descent. We are level at 7,000 feet, basically waiting for the next waypoint that we can start descending down to 5,000. Just keep on coming on down into Fairbanks. It is a nice, kind of long and somewhat flat-ish arrival, although it leaves us kind of high here, but about 7 miles to Close. Doing some modern DC-6 ops, not apologizing for using GPS tonight. And we are on VetSim here in Alaska. There are a couple other DC-6s and other airplanes buzzing around. Some up in the far north. Another DC-6 just departed Anchorage behind us. So all in all, pretty good. So we're getting pretty slow now. I'm tempted even to put us back into cruise.
City cruise power.
Although we're going to keep coming downhill in a second. But we don't pay the flight engineers by the operation.
Cruise power is set.
Airspeed should start coming back up a little bit.
Cruise checks are complete.
Should have about 10 minutes left till we hit Anchorage, or until we hit Fairbanks. PAFA. And then we're basically going to go all the way to the end. I'm going to go to heavy cargo because that's what I feel like we should be. Alright, so we're coming up on Glows now. Now it's taking me to a user point. which is not quite what I expect, but that's okay. We will keep on coming downhill. And now our next trick will be picking up the localizer. So 109.1. Let's get into descent.
26 inches, please. Setting 26 inches.
Slight stutter.
26 inches set. Descent checklist, please. Altimeters and flight instruments cross-checked.
And so we're 24 miles now from the ILS. We've got the localizer tuned in.
On. Engine blow is low. Low.
Bit of a stutter.
Descent checks are complete.
At this point, I'm also just going to put it in gyropilot mode, center that out. And I'm start looking for the ILS. So we've got needles now. We're coming downhill. Got lots of power in. Now if I want control, I can also just take control from them. We can even come a little bit further back on the power. Just to give ourselves a fighting chance as we come downhill. When we're still about 20 miles from the airport, so we'll go ahead and descend down to our final altitude of 3,000 feet. We'll go ahead and put that into both. Now it's showing me that the localizer is off to my left. And actually you can see the runway over here. So, I'm not sure what's going on with that approach. It's not doing exactly what I would have hoped it would do, but that's okay. We got the airport. We're going to continue our descent. Passing about 4,000, and we'll just navigate off of our VORs here. That's looking pretty good. I'm just going to come back basically just enough that I still have power. We are coming in hot, just a bit hot. And then we'll level off at about 3,000. Yeah, when in doubt, hand fly. When in doubt, look out the window. Well, that's not very good. Actually, that's not very good advice in IFR conditions. But it'll get us there for now. All right, we'll go in range.
Turbine. Normal. Fuel booster pumps.
We can see the runway right there. I don't know if we're going to make this one, but that's all right. If we don't, they probably have a missed approach procedure.
Mains on. Crossfeed off. Hydraulic bypass valve. Down.
We'll go to Crinkle.
On. In-range checks complete.
Which is not in there. And there's the lateral lineup.
Flaps 20. Setting flaps 20.
I wonder, what is my gear retract speed in this?
Set. Mixtures rich, please.
Alright, so it's hand flying time.
Mixtures set. Gear up and down, please. Gear up and down.
Just keeping the minimum amount of power in. We're below the localizer, but we're lined up okay. Well, we're off a little bit.
2400 RPM.
A little below the glide slope, a little to the left, or a little to the right, so let's come left a little bit.
2400 RPM set. Cal flaps. Plus 3 degrees. Cal flaps set.
Alright, speed's coming in now.
ADI off. ADI is off. Landing lights. Speed good. Extending lights.
Put my pen down.
Lights extended and on. RB. Call me called. Set call. Before landing checks complete.
Fairbanks traffic, Everett 1600 on final to land, runway 2 left, Fairbanks. Okay, so let's let the speed keep coming back. We're looking pretty good on our localizer. Little to the left. But that's okay. I feel like I got a really high angle of attack and my speed is still up a bit. I still have like no power in too, so we're just fighting it coming down heavy a little bit here. That is all right. Rate of descent's a little much, so I'm going to add in a little bit more power. Just gently to give ourselves a fighting chance of getting the cargo in one piece or half a piece. We're below the glide slope a bit, but one white. Alright, we're still a bit up, but that's looking pretty good. Snowy here for 50 degrees. Bring it up. Oof. Right. Welcome to Fairbanks, everybody. A little hard, but we're in. And let's see if I can find a taxiway. 536. Yeah, that's about right. So there's one coming up here. Bravo. Is this it here? The blue lights. We're going to taxi all the way out to the end. So again, this is another freeware scenery here at Fairbanks. Get a nice terminal building. We're going to be all the way down at air cargo, one of the air cargo stations. Still have 4 engines, so that's good. So yeah, that was a weird, that one felt fast and slow as far as approaches go. Not the cleanest. A little hard, but that's alright. Fairbanks traffic, average 1600, vacated to left, taxiing to the cargo ramp via Alpha, Fairbanks. More flaps. Ah, see, that's it. That's what I'm forgetting. Flaps. Yeah, so we were landing. That's the landing with 20 flaps. That's why we're too fast. Thank you, Anthony. I don't know what I'd do without you, bud. Just crashed this plane. All right. So flaps. They do help you go slower and have a better angle of attack on final. Yeah. I need a better checklist for my DC-6ing. I really don't have a good one that I go to. But not bad. We're here. That approach happened fast, but we made it down reasonably. So a flaps 20 landing will be a little bit fast for comfort. We'll pull up here. Park and have the guys clean this thing up. So thanks for coming along. We are here in Fairbanks now. Full flaps usually called for. Yeah, it would have helped. And it would have helped us, yeah, slow down the rest of the way. So that happens too. Things start moving fast, and you're like, you forget really basic things. That's why we have other people in the cockpit, and B, checklists, and just practice using that flow the same way every time. But all things considered, not too bad. Okay, we've had worse flights, so we'll get out and stretch our legs, open up the rest of the cargo doors, and get our cargo all set up and ready for us to keep on going. All right, so the rest of the team's going to get to work. I am going to go grab a drink, and then we will talk through the flight plan. We will be back in approximately a minute or two. And they shut everything up. That's not very cinematic. We'll be right back. All right, so we are back, and I see there are some pearls of wisdom in chat as well. Chris says we don't need a stinking checklist, and that's fair. Although I would counter with, I think if you fly a plane a lot, you probably don't need a checklist. But if you fly a bunch of planes, it's real hard to keep it all in your head. I don't fly this plane enough to keep it all in my head when things get a little crazy. When things are not crazy, I can do it. But and then yeah, if you're getting, Anthony says, if you're getting nose down attitude and you're wondering why am I having such nose down attitude or nose up attitude on final, why is my nose so high in the air? Flaps is a good answer for that trivia question. So good stuff. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started back up. Let me do some accounting here. We're going to take out some of the cargo, but we're going to leave in a good, what do you think, 13,000 pounds?
Completed.
We'll clear out a little bit of the lower hold, but not much. We've got plenty of fuel. We'll probably use a little bit of the alternate tanks this time.
Fuel and fluids. Checked.
All right, so let's get talking about what we're doing next. We're going out to Galena.
Manifold and duct pressure. Checked. Radios.
So let's pull this up. That's going to be PAGA. Now, there's a couple ways we could attack this. One way would be basically to follow these rivers, eventually leading into the Yukon. Basically flying out to that VOR and then into Galena. Or we can fly GPS on V452, I think it is. I might do, that sounds a little more scenic though. So let's change this up. We're going to do
Set to idle.
FAI
Colors. Forward and 3.
up to TAL.
Before start checks complete. Start engines.
And that's about 109 nautical miles there. So we've got a VOR inbound and outbound, and then we'll pick up GAL and just keep it simple here. Keep it simple, stupid, going into Galena. And then, so Fairbanks, we're still 3 knots. So we're still 180 for 3 here at Fairbanks. And if we go to PAGA was what it was? Is that right? Yeah. Clear 32 Fahrenheit. No wind to speak of, 2974. So that's all stuff we can start punching in. I can also update this stream. PAFA to PAGA. And we'll be VTS 1601 from here on out. This will also require a quick cycling of VATSIM. So let's hop in. Okay. The next thing is to get this set up here. So let's clear this out. That's better. Okay, so we are at PAFA. So we get to the really riveting part of today. Well, they load the cargo and everything. PAFA. Getting a little weirdness, but that's... Hopefully we can still just keep doing this. Then I'm going to use Fairbanks mostly for reference, and then... Well, if we come off the runway, maybe... There's also there is a departure, the Galena 7, which will take us basically direct to Galena. That would be coming off the runway at about 277. And they go to the VOR station down here. And then track that north. Which would be a little bit neater in terms of what we're doing. So, essentially, Sid, Galena 7. This is basically takes us to where we want to go. Which would be coming off, if we head out to the south, we got a 180 wind, it's more convenient. There's no one else here. We could go to this VOR, Nenana, I don't know. 115.8, track that all the way to Galena on 114.8. 162 nautical miles. I mean, that would basically be it. That would be kind of the southern route where we can cross up by the Yukon. That's kind of how I had programmed in last time. But then we're not really trying to pick up Fairbanks right after we leave. And everything will kind of line up nicely. So, ENN to GAL. If I got to punch less stuff in, that's a bonus for me. ENN. Echo November, November. Take PA here. And then Galena is PAGA. So P A GA. And that'll keep it nice and simple. We got VORs basically at every point. So that is in and set up in our GPS. We are still on Unicom on the radios. And that VOR then will be 115.8. So we'll punch that in on nav 1 here. So I think a good amount of time has elapsed. We can go ahead and get this thing buttoned up. Airplane's ready to start. We'll be a little bit lighter here. Engine 3, both. We do have fuel pressure.
6, 9, 12.
Boost prime. Doing some bouncing around. It is quite slow now. Maybe it's because it's warm. VFR along the river is low altitude. We could do that. Prior to World War II, there were no checklists even on the airlines. Interesting. And the Lancer, I think in reference to the 737, says there seems to be more detail functionality in the FSX version at the moment. The MSS version, it has a little ways to go. Yeah, especially with stuff like the AFB. Would be nice to see.
3, 6, 9,
Boost.
12.
Prime. Give it some mixture. Cough to life? Sure. Nudge the throttles a little bit. Nope, we lost 4. Okay. Fuel, engine selector, both. It's all well and good. Boost prime, we've already got fuel. Just keep it going a little bit here. All right. Engine 2. So if we wanted to go low and slow, well, we could do that. It's really just the change of one VOR, so TAL really would be it. Let's hit 2. So we'll head up, fly up the Yukon River. That'll be more scenic.
6,
We won't tell the bosses.
5, 12,
Prime, and is it going to work? It may well. There we go. Alright, so we're slowly and surely coughing to life here. Engine 1, both. And we have fuel pressure. Everything else is pointing in the right direction. That's good.
3, 6, 5, 12,
I don't know why I have so much trouble with my custom views, but... Alright, those engines are not at atmospheric pressure, so that's a good sign. Okay, seems pretty stable. Okay, so let's punch that in. We're going to go up to... Anthony's right, that would be more fun. Let's do TAL. Tango, Alpha, Lima. It's like the PA version. And we'll clear out ENN. Didn't really want to clear out PAGA. And then the last thing, let's pick a runway into PAGA, or at least think about one. Now, this is a small airport. Even for us, we've got east-west, basically. 2, 6, and 8. We're going to be coming from the west, so we might as well try and get 2, 6. We're heading west, so... And I believe, if I am not mistaken, there's an ILS for 2-6. No, there's an no, there's just an RNAV. It's just a straight in RNAV approach. Putting us at about 6,000, 4,000 feet. We would want, what are my choices again? Edwin, Migkey, or Orsley. Oh, yeah, we want Migkey. Enter. Alright, so we will see how that works. Boyagle, yeah. Alright, cool. So we're just about ready to go after start checklist. Back to stream. So thanks for coming along, everybody. If you're just joining us, we are heading out from Fairbanks. We're loading up our cargo for a second leg of our journey out to Galena. We departed out of Fairbanks a couple hours ago, or we departed out of Anchorage, I should say, a couple hours ago. Now we're at Fairbanks, going out into more remote Alaska this time, so. And again, we'll just get a little push. Oh, we got doors open. We're breaking stuff. So those are coming in. We also probably have enough room to swing it. The cargo doors are closing now. Ever so slowly. As we demonstrate our mastery, undisputed mastery of the DC-6. Fun complex airplane that I really just haven't flown enough lately. Hopefully they strapped everything down in there. So we're gonna be selfish here at Fairbanks, and winds. Let's keep putting K. We're gonna go look for PAFA. Wind's still 3 knots at 180. So we might as well take 20 right and just kind of come out to the right and head up for the VOR station. Might as well be selfish. Alright, so let's turn ourselves around a little bit before I commit to making a taxi call. This thing can turn pretty good on a point, which is good to see. Yeah, Lancer. So, I'm catching up. VFR, low altitude. Anthony's waiting for the 800. Since it's all monomotor, it flies only 800s. There are a lot of those too, yeah. They have said it's going to be cheaper. And I mean, I don't know. What's the DC-6 these days? 60 bucks, so. Yeah, and I'm particularly looking. I enjoy Southwest stuff, so I have no aversion to a 700. But also the 800 probably would be the go-to. Not much interest in the 600. And Lancer says his only reason for buying the MSFS version at this point would be the vastly improved scenery over FSX. Yeah, I mean, FSX has been out for a long time. It's got a lot built up around it too. So definitely a mature platform. I think I have it actually somewhere. I think I got it on a Steam sale once upon a time. Am I on a taxiway or anything? Maybe. Okay, so we're going to taxi to 20 Center via Alpha. And we are Everett's 1601 today. Just for completion. Fairbanks traffic, Everett's 1601, taxiing runway 20 right via Alpha. Fairbanks. So let's taxi on out. But that is, yeah, so like you're saying, yeah, Lancer, you're absolutely right in that, in saying that. And if you have a lot invested in FSX, it may make some sense to stay with that platform for now. I don't have anything invested really in FSX. I bought it for like $5 on Steam, and it may well have a lot of stuff. Yeah, the way I see it, I'm investing in my future platform at the moment, with the hopes that some things get ironed out. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom either. Let's run before takeoff, please.
Boost pumps on low. Fuel selector and crossfeed. Main tanks and crossfeed off. Autopilot and carb heat. Off and cold. Hydraulic system. Down, forward, pressure and quantity checked. Okay. Flaps 20.
Oh no, am I backwards? Yeah, I think I'm backwards. That's alright. So we'll take off 2 liter left to the south and we'll turn right.
Turbine.
I'm still thinking we're heading the southern route.
Closed and on. Controls.
But it would make
Thrust
more
on release.
sense.
Free.
Probably make more sense to go off at 2, but that's alright.
On. Mixture and cowl flaps. Bridge unlocked. Set. Transponder. On. Landing lights.
So our gross weight today, 83,000 pounds. So we're down a good bit with some fuel out
Extended and on.
and some cargo down. So we'll be a little lighter.
Tanks complete.
So that'll be a dry takeoff for us. So we taxi out here at Fairbanks International Airport. And again, I'll have to go back and drop the links to these sceneries. These are both on flightsim.to. Freeware, which is nice. And here in a very snowy day in Fairbanks. Alright, so we're going to be ready to go once we hit it here, so we'll get ready for a dry takeoff. Fairbanks traffic average 1601, taking runway 20 right for a departure out to the north, Fairbanks. Hopefully I didn't just completely miss the runway, but... Alright, second takeoff of the day. Let's see. Holding the brakes on. We're going to go dry takeoff.
30 inches stabilize. 30 inches stabilize.
Let it bring power up. So they're going to put power on. We're going to hold the brakes. We're going to accelerate up to about 100 knots. We're going to rotate, climb on out, and then we'll make a right-hand turn and basically
30 inches.
chase down
Stabilize.
our track into
Cowl flaps set.
the TAL VOR.
Power, please. Going full power.
So dry takeoff, this should be about 54 inches of manifold pressure. Right about there.
Full power set.
And away. So we are moving. That's 100 knots.
Buzz rate. Gear up. Gear selected up.
Not going to pull too far back. Really want to build airspeed.
Gear up. Lights out.
So we do have some terrain. We'll keep an eye on it. It may make sense to go left, actually. One takeoff here. But I do want to make sure we just get up to a decent speed before we
16 meter power, 48 inches, 2600 RPM.
make sure we actually have speed in our climbing before we do any major maneuvers. That's 165 knots. That's pretty good. They're going to pull the power back a little bit. We're going to turn left.
Meter power set. Climb power. Setting climb power.
Fairbanks traffic, if it's 1601, clear of 20 left, climbing through 2000, departing out to the northwest at Fairbanks. So we'll just do the old loop-to-do.
Climb power set. After takeoff checklist, please. After takeoff checks complete.
And keep climbing on out. We'll hand fly for a little bit. So thanks for coming along. We are out of Fairbanks now for Galena, PAGA. That's going to be a smaller strip, single runway. How long is it? 6,000 feet. And then one thing I can do to help myself out, if I were being conscientious, is put in this VOR frequency, 116.6, and just give me a first order. Here's where the VOR is. As we climb on out. So we're doing a nice little circle over the airport now. We will keep on going. And we're getting the localizer air quotes now. So I gotta disconnect stuff. Oops, what did I do? Alright, so we'll get everything set up now. Try and reset. Still not liking that. Okay, gyro pilot on. We'll go ahead and pencil in a climb. And if we still have the localizer, we do. If only just. So it'll bring me back a little bit and do it ourselves. So off, center it, turn it on. Didn't like that, okay. Turn it on, then left. And we'll just rough it in a little bit. So we're climbing up now 7,000 feet. We'll probably keep it pretty low today. Just level it off 8,000 and fly that into Galena. That way we're not screaming down from the way up top. So let's level it off there. And let's start bringing in our angle. We're getting a little slow, but that's still in bounds. We do have that in, so we can go to localizer mode now. And that's 8,000 feet, so we'll throw it into altitude hold mode. And we'll do a little bit of a low cruise over Alaska for our second leg, departing out of Galena. So we're in the air. That's a good start for us in the DC-6. We're not doggy paddling. It's all good. But it's also, I see, it's still on, I see. It's still on VLOC, not GPS mode. This is interesting because I put it into gyropilot. So it shouldn't really have turned there, but it did. All right. So that's going to be 101 nautical miles to Tango Alpha Lima. At that point, we'll basically pick up the Yukon River and follow that all the way into Galena, another 80 or so miles. Dylan, thanks for coming along. Yeah, definitely. A little bit, something just a little different for us. I mean, they still fly these things. They flew them this week in these colors, so scratching that PMDG itch. Living well, instead of living vicariously through other streamers. Thanks for coming along, bud. Anthony, some DC-6 bush action. Now that just sounds scary. You saw us landing with, I gotta get the flaps down first. Let's try that, and then we can start talking about bush flying. I mean, real true bush flying. Takes a brave soul. I mean, that really would be mastery of this airplane, I think. If you could put this thing down in small bush strips and really nail it, really have that comfort level with the airplane. I end up leaning a lot on the ILSs, and so this will be a little interesting. We don't have an ILS coming into Galena. We've just gotten our nav. But it is it would be nice just to learn to fly it by feel and really get the most out of the plane. Bush pilots are really good at that, particularly in the sim community, but also in real life. Alright, so that's a good enough cruise. We'll keep it below the clouds. There wasn't so much chat delay, you could be the FE. Yeah, exactly. That's true. Then we just need a co-pilot. Wouldn't have to fly at all. Some Everett's air cargo and load and scenery. So in the absence of a glide slope, Anthony's saying use 300 feet altitude per nautical mile from the end of the runway as your guide. So 5 miles negative 1,500, 4 negative 1,200. Interesting, okay. That is a good handy tip. It's not a crazy RNAV either. It's a long straight into Galena. So that helps a little bit. So that was the viewpoint of the monster of the Twilight Zone. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, DC-6, pop culture icon. Dylan says those far out little fields, pretty fun to fly to. Especially suggesting Sparavon. I'm going to butcher that. LRS if we're looking for challenge. So if we're up for a challenge. LRRS. Where is that one, Dylan? Still here at 8,000 feet. Looking pretty good. So this is going to be TAL. So for a little perspective on where we are in the world, we're somewhere over this area, flying along the Tanana River. Sorry, Alaskans. And basically this river is going to flow. This river is going to join up with the Yukon River of, well, Yukon River fame and Yukon fame, which would go up to Fort Yukon and just kind of spreads out in a valley. There's a little bit of terrain up to 4,000 feet kind of along our route, but should be no huge factor for us. So yeah, we're going to join up, basically follow this river, then join up with the Yukon River, follow that all the way down, and then we're into Galena, which is going to be right on the riverbank, I believe on the north side. So very interesting scenery, and again, it's a place I'd love to dig into more and fly more in. There's just so many small strips, so many flights to do. It's GA, DC-6, even jets. There's a lot that you can do out here. It's a good sim playground. It's just, yeah, trying to unlock what that starting point is for exploring that. Because you basically have the run we did, Anchorage to Fairbanks. It's pretty interesting. I mean, it's got, you got Denali, you've got some big national parks around that area. And yeah, obviously you have the big city of Alaska, Anchorage, and you're going up to Fairbanks, so that is an interesting place to explore. And then you also have kind of the southern part out on the coast north of British Columbia, and then the very far north going out to Barrow and places like that too, which is just a long flight even in an airplane like this. I think that's something like a 3 or 4 hour flight from Fairbanks up to Barrow. It might be a 2 hour flight from Fairbanks. Alright, so we're looking pretty good. I did say I was going to use our aux tanks, bleed off some of this fuel, so let's go ahead and do that. Oops. Ooh, no, 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 no! Ah! No! Or we'll do some engine out stuff. Because I can't... My views aren't very good. Don't take that engine out. Nope, don't take them all out. Alright, give me power. Give me control. Sorry, radial engines. I apologize. Alright, so it looks like we have the engine back. That was what I was afraid of. Crisis averted. We're okay. Go ahead and put us back in cruise.
Setting cruise power.
35 inches, okay.
Cruise power is set.
So southeast of Anchorage. Just a... Oh, okay, I gotcha. Dramatic slope on the runway, lots of mountains around it. You only get one shot. Interesting. So that's LR or yeah, okay.
Cruise checks are complete.
Sparavon LRRS. So is LRRS something like long range radio station? I thought that was an airport identifier. That's what threw me. I gotcha. Sparavon, southeast. Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. That's a good one. PPIZ, Anthony says. Okay, PPIZ. Now, the scenery should lose the snow in the summer season, yeah. So, my understanding is that it's based off of the, it's based off of where the snow line is in real life. I can't speak to the accuracy of it, you know, now in April, but, you know, I don't know. So, yeah, it should lose it. This should be accurate to what is happening, ideally. Although I don't know if the rivers would still be frozen. But yeah, theoretically it follows the snow line. Based on some AI goodness. And it works pretty well in the continental US. It does. I mean, if you're flying over it in winter and we've had a storm, you will see it show up kind of in that area. And blend pretty naturally, which is cool. It's still about 50 miles to the VOR. What are you telling me for? No ETA yet. Okay. Alright, so do you have any friends in Alaska at the moment? It looks like. Looks like a couple. Oh, it's yelling at me. Why is he yelling at me? So that was odd. It was an external view, and then the AFE took it away, so I had to abort them to put it back up to 35. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, we're looking at people out in Alaska right now. We've got Alaska 183 going out from Barrow to PAJN, which I believe is Juneau, the state capital of Alaska. Let's get rid of my embarrassing landing rate. It's Boeing 737-800. Alaska 50. That's a 737-700. Out Anchorage, out of Barrow for Anchorage. We've got a Spirit A320 out of PHAN, which again I believe is Juneau, to Anchorage, so they've arrived. And UPS 931, a Cessna 208 grain caravan, heading out to PAEM. I'm not even going to try that one. And then we got a SIA. Is that Singapore Airlines? Am I making that up? A359. Then us. And that's really it. Well, no, that's not quite true. There's an Alaska 737-800 heading for PADU. So that's the happenings in VATSIM in Alaska right now. We had a weird glitch with the AFE, but everything's okay so far. Two glitches, one of my own design, one not. And we are ever 1601. Now this is actually the real leg that they flew that inspired this one. So Fairbanks to Galena, Galena back to Fairbanks was the flight on flight radar. I think that's 1600, and then back is 1601. But or that might be for the Fort Yukon flight. But either way, this segment is kind of realistic. I think most of their DC-6s operate out of Fairbanks. I tacked on Anchorage just because it's a big airport. It's fun. It's a good warm-up for us for doing something like this. Still got the river, so that's good. Oh, I didn't see we were buzzing around Alaska earlier. Coming out of Nome for Kotzebue? What good names in Alaska? Relatively short flight for the DC-6. So yeah, that's out. That would be out east. I mean, there are some folks buzzing around. It's a big state, but it's a good, somewhat low-ish pressure environment for the DC-6 on the network. I haven't kept up with what's happening in the on VATSIM in the continental states. I thought there was an event tonight, but I can't remember what it was. Looks like New York's pretty well staffed up. Boston is always strong. We got Cleveland and Indy Center on. Ah, they've got Savannah. Interesting. Must be doing some training there. Oh, that's right. It was Houston. Okay, so I see it now. It was Houston to Montego Bay was the event for this evening. It would be that big stream here. Houston to Montego Bay, which I guess makes sense. People from Houston want to go to Montego Bay, so good fun flight. Not a CRJ though flight though, so. So we'll stay up here in the cold. We're not going to Montego Bay. We're going to places with snow on the ground. All right, I'm seeing a little bit of a junction here in the rivers. Is that matching up with what I'm seeing here? About 30 miles to Tango Alpha Lima. Okay, yeah, maybe. So yeah, our next big, so the two halves, we've got the VOR coming up. We've got the VORs coming up. And visually, we're looking for the Yukon River, which I think is off to our right. And then basically, these two rivers should merge. We'll follow the Yukon all the way into Galena. Anthony, yeah, it does seem... Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a good sense of it kind of before I started, really, which was only like a year and a half ago or so. No, actually about a year, because I think I started flying VATSIM in March of last year, so it does seem fairly realistic. And I think some of the popularity of the Sims helps it. And yeah, Anthony's saying it's been about 15 years, so maybe they stayed in the hobby, and that's entirely possible. It seems like they know what they're doing. I can't really speak to the realism of it. And then once we hit this VOR, we'll be making the left-hand turn. If we get lost, we follow the river. But hopefully we don't get too lost. We do have a VOR on the other end we can punch in. That's going to be... Galena on 114.8. We'll punch that in on nav 2 just to make sure. So yeah, that's pointing in generally the direction I'd expect it to, so that's a good sign. It may well be the same people, yeah. Then it may well be. I mean, yeah, a lot of those guys have been doing it a long time. I think they also have an influx of new controllers too. Hard to gauge. And really, that's interesting. I do, they definitely, it seems like they do a very good job realistically simulating the things you can realistically simulate. And it's, I mean, for all that, when I started it out, it really had a reputation as being, well, unforgiving, I think was really what the consensus was. And it is to some degree. It's a complex thing to fly with approaching realism, especially for someone coming cold into the hobby, but yeah, a lot of the controllers, at least in the areas I fly, are pretty great. And of course, I mean, it's complicated, but it's also ideally makes sense at some level what we're doing. We're just communicating. And Dylan, yeah, the popularity is a blessing and a curse, definitely. Yeah, it's nice to see it busy, but there are some times when, and I think streams are part of it, especially on that front. I think a lot of the events They can be hit or miss. A lot of the events do really well, but yeah, sometimes trailing and streamers. That's true. And that's a good point too. It happens in real life, and that's, yeah. I mean, listening to, that was one of the things that took a lot of the pressure off for me. Looking at it as someone coming into trying to do that, was listening to actual ATC on live ATC. Just being like, you know, these aren't robots in the cockpits. And, you know, there's a reason we're sharing the information we're sharing and why we do it. And there's a language you learn, but there's a language you learn, there's phrases people understand, but yeah, they're not robots, they make mistakes, and yeah, the quality can vary. But again, on a normal day, I find that the pilots are pretty good too. At least nowadays. I'm sure part of that may have been an initial MSFS popularity wave that crashed over us. Well, that frankly brought me back into it, so. So yeah, just happy to see a busy network. Not robots yet. Yeah, that's a good point. Not yet. Not yet. Alright, so we're getting pretty close here now. About 3 nautical miles, 2.5. Counting down, I'm going to call it. We are now over the Yukon River. We're going to follow the Yukon River the rest of the way. You know, we're at 8,000 feet, so let's start thinking about where we need to be. We're at 8,000 feet. We're going to probably need to be at for the RNAV 26. We're going to need to be, I think it's just shooting me straight into Sivba, which is about 2,300 feet. So 2,300 feet, we're at 8,000. So if we just aim to be at 3,000 feet, because that's an at or above. So if we aim to be at 3,000 feet, that's 5,000. So 5,000 times 5 is going to be a cool 25 nautical miles. Plus 20, 10 to 20 to get slowed down. Now luckily this one's going to be pretty simple since we're basically just going straight in for the airport. Looks like it's taking me straight there. So let's see what I need to do. So we're going to get this pretty well set up. We'll knock it into gyropilot mode, level out, and mess with this. So PAGA, procedures. Is that what I need to do? See, that doesn't do what I want it to do. So we'll punch in direct Sivba. I would need to practice with this more. I wonder if there's... Because this is just the default 430 unit. So I don't know how much of this is user error and how much of it's not. But let's just get us to where we need to go. So 108 nautical miles to Sivba. We want to be at 3,000 feet there, or thereabouts. So basically at 45, when that reads 45, we can start coming on downhill. And we can go back over to localizer mode. So thanks for coming along if you're just joining us. We are in our trusty PMDG DC-6, flying some cargo from, well, we started in Anchorage. We landed at Fairbanks, had a little bit of a hard landing. We turned it around at Fairbanks, and now we're flying over the Yukon River, heading for Edward G. Pitka Sr. Airport at Galena, Alaska, PAGA, Papa Alpha Golf Alpha. So what we can do is activate vectors to final or extend the center line. Yeah, that's a good point. That'll basically be what we do at this point. We could really go to MIG key, and I'm not too worried about it. It'll be a slight right-hand turn, and SIPA should put us on something like a 5-mile final there. So really we want to be a little bit behind before that. So let's call it, let's say when this reads 55, we'll start descending. Terrain shouldn't be a factor. This is all pretty low lands. There is one peak at 3,000 feet, another one at 3,200 feet that we might consider. But we can always go visually. That'll be all right. So just looking at sky vector here, we're going to basically have some terrain off our right hand side, but off to the left we follow the river, and that'll basically take us directly to the runway, but we'll cut off a little bit and basically be flying out to here somewhere and then turning right into the runway. Yeah, so the GTN 750, yeah, is the PMS one the newer one? I use one of the 750s. I can't remember which one I use. I use the free one, whatever I can get for free. So, I do use that. I use that in the Piper Arrow. Yeah, that's my go-to. For any IFR flying in the Arrow or in the Mooney. You can get it in the Mooney too. That'd be a little luxurious for the DC-6 though. I mean, I do think they really have a unit like this in these airplanes. I think they have a 430 or something like that. Which is a little clunky, but that's alright. Yeah, and it is definitely tedious too. I picked that up. It is not an intuitive system. Nice big touchscreen is good. And Lancer, yeah, there is certainly a lot of hype. I think it'll really be telling how the launch goes. Sounds like they're fighting bugs. And yeah, I don't know. We will see what comes down the pike in the MSFS big macro front. But, and yeah, the free, yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's humorous. But yeah, weather radar would be a nice to have, although, you know, I don't keep up too much with it. And of course, yeah, LNAV issues are... They are hanging around. But I think the future's bright. I think the present's pretty bright too. I mean, we've got lots of fun airplanes. Got lots of fun airplanes in the sim right now. I think the big airliners are the big thing I look longingly at X-Plane at, but I think the bones are there. And Dylan, yeah, 750 for older airplanes. You can get a GTN 750 in the F-104. That's the who makes the F-104? I can't remember. I didn't know you could get the 750 in the F-104. That's interesting. I would kill for it in some of the Reno planes, like the T-6 or the P-51. Following the Yukon, I think it looks like it's still frozen here. The Yukon River, that is. And the 247, yeah, it's a nice one. There's good, nice airplanes. So, I mean, there's certainly a lot of variety. And we will see what the Phoenix does. I'm not the biggest Airbus guy. I'm not informed enough to have an opinion, but which is funny because so there should be it'll be interesting. The next few months will be really interesting for flight sim. Just using the pop-out menu. I gotcha. Yeah. Oh yeah. So I do that. I've done that with the 247. I've done that with the I think I have that right now. Yeah. So if you didn't know that, if you're in an airplane without a GPS, is it going to load for me? You can click on they'll have a toolbar for this PMS GTN 750, and it pops it up, and you can use it. I like to use it like a tablet. There's an update, of course, but it works really well. If you're in an airplane, you're in a bind, or you want to add a modern interface. That's true. What did I use that with? So I was using that a lot with the stagger wing. Was what I was using that with. So when I was flying the stagger wing around New York and stuff, I used a lot of the GTN 750. It was helpful. Yeah. So that pop-up window is super helpful. And I don't know why, it just feels a little bit better than looking at, because you could kind of do a lot of that stuff on the side, not all the waypoints, but I like looking up the weather on it. It just feels a little bit more like an in-game tablet and EFB that way. 274. Nancy says, in real life, the 750 is very nice, except for in turbulence. Yeah, I can imagine a touchscreen in turbulence would be a little tough. I could see that being the case. Alright, so let's do a distance check, because I've kind of just been talking for a while. 72 nautical miles, and what did I say, 55 for a start and descent? So we'll start coming downhill at 55. We'll keep it off to the left-hand side. This terrain's clear once we get pretty close to the airport, and we'll be kind of turning leftish anyway to stay out of the way. And then we will begin, we'll begin our descent into Galena here in Alaska. And this has been fun. I don't know, yeah, this has just been a good kind of fun change of pace, but just flying something a little more modern. But still, the DC-6 has been good. This is a good plane. Love the panel. I just love all the gauges. And I like the bungee cords on the compass. Makes me feel like an explorer. So they're there. riding right below the cloud deck here on the Yukon River. Now this would basically take us all the way out to the sea. If we followed it, we could head all the way out. Really all the way to the end of Alaska. And back into Canada if we went the other way. We're kind of smack in the middle of it at this point. And let's, you know, I'm going to set ourselves up for a little bit of success here. Let's go gyropilot and muck around with this a little bit. So I said I was going direct to Sivba, but what I really let's do direct to, what is this other waypoint? Migkey? If I remember my alphabet, MIG. Migkey. So let's go direct to Migkey instead. That'll basically just put us on that final approach, heading 257, and that'll put us 4,000 feet. So about 257 all the way out. Or all the way in. Just give us a little bit more breathing room. Gives us another 10 miles. So instead of spitting out on a 5-mile final, we're out on a 15-mile final, it looks like. And while I'm talking and sitting around, we've got about 50 miles to Migkey. So that's as good a time as any to start thinking about our descent. Now that is a 4,000 foot floor. So we'll wait a minute. And then we'll start not a super aggressive descent. Just a gentle one. About 500 feet per minute. Pick up some speed. Then kind of bring it downhill. So we are starting our descent now into Galena. We're going to go direct to the initial approach fix at Migkey. And then from that we'll head 257 into runway 26 at Galena. Let's give it another knockdown. I had forgotten about my transponder. Are we on? It looks like it. And we've only got about a 10 minutes estimated time en route, so it's going to come up on us pretty quickly once we get there. Anthony, I've not tried the Red Wing Connie. I've heard mixed things about it, but I have seen plenty of people flying it, so. The Constellation. Another big prop liner. So that's 7,000. And I'm just going to do a gut check on Sim Toolkit Pro to make sure we are kind of where I think we are, and we are. That's 36 miles to Mickey now. We're descending in a cool 240 knots. Indicated. It's about 258 over the ground. We still are a little bit over this terrain, so just keeping an eye on that. We don't really want to get too low, so I'd say 5,000 feet until we're kind of clear of this stuff. It seems like we're just a little bit off to the left of where or a little off to the right of what I'd expect. I'd expect us to be more along the river at this point. But maybe not. So we're coming in fast and loud. So the things to remember this time, let's do flaps. And reversers was the other one. Now I don't, we'll see if I remember. I think I know what my reverser bind is on this airplane. I think it's tied to water rudder. That's 5,500. We'll keep it going like this. Now about 25 miles out. Maybe I'm further than maybe I'm further than I think we are. That's possible. So Anthony has the Red Wing Connie. It's pretty good. I'll have to check that out. We'll have to check that out. It does fit in very nicely with this kind of theme and series of airplanes. So that's 5,000. I think we're looking all right. We'll level off here in a little bit. In fact, we'll call it 4,500. And because mid-key we're good, 4,000, 6,000 if we're following the RNAV. And we can go all the way down to 4,000. So Yukon River out to our right. We're on the north bank. The airport should be on the north bank. The river's going to bend out a little bit, and we're going to turn right onto the final runway heading, basically, to pick it up. So still 14 miles to go. to Midkey. No, I haven't run the descent checklist. I know I haven't run the descent checklist. I don't want to slow us down too much out here just yet. But my goal for this one's just to be a little bit more in control. So if you're just joining us, we're on our quote-unquote arrival into Galena, PAGA. We'll be doing again, kind of quote-unquote RNAV, runway 26, and that's 4,000 feet. So we're heading into the initial approach fix. Midkey will turn right, heading 257, and the runway will be right out in front of us. It's a beautiful day, so we'll do it visually, but not too crazy. See, you can kind of see out in the distance how the river kind of bends. The airport should be somewhere over here. I guess I have control of the throttle, so I'm going to bring us back to 30 inches of manifold pressure just to let some speed start coming off. And then Midkey should put us on about a 15-mile final for the runway. It's kind of coming up. We're looking for something on the north side. I think it's something like that. Kind of tucked in here. We will see. I've put it over into gyropilot mode because honestly I'm not sure what the GPS is going to do after this. I think it should send me to the next point on the approach, but we'll see. So I'm expecting it to go to Sivba. If that's the case, we'll just let it do its thing. And that'll get us close enough to where we want to be. If not, we will do it manually. And turn right to a heading of 257. And again, that should get us close enough for government work at least. Alright, and if you missed our first landing of the day, we did, we tried a different configuration for landing, let's say that, and it didn't work out as well as I would have hoped. So we'll go flaps full 40 basically to maintain glide slope, 30 to be a little bit, to gain some altitude, and 50 full flaps once we're really ready to land. Okay, so now we're well past that. I want to activate that lag. Whatever. Alright, so we'll activate direct to PAGA. We'll pick that up and
Cooling turbine. Normal.
we got the runway in sight right there, so pretty good. We're at 4,000 feet now.
On low. Fuel tank selectors. Mains on.
Now by about a 10-mile final we want to be at 2,300 and, or no, the 5-mile final we want to be at 2,300, so.
On.
That's going to be our first yardstick.
Complete.
Alright, so we'll let the power come on. We'll let speed come on back. And we're established on, well, we got the runway in sight, so we're in a long final. Let's see, do I have any other tools in my toolkit? Not really. So the Galena VOR is a little bit in front of it, actually. So it's showing about 5 miles to the VOR, but it's on the other side of the river here, so it's really like 10 miles.
Set. Mixtures rich, please. Water rich. Mixtures set. Gear up and down, please. Gear up and down.
So once we're passing that, we'll call basically 10 mile. Or we'll call about 5 mile there. We got gear down, we got some flaps down. Let's go flaps 30.
Gear down and locked. 3 greens. Props. 24.
Well, I'm not sure I'm allowed to do that. Oh, 30 to full down, we're good under 150. So we're okay there. We are
RPM set.
a bit high.
Plus 3 degrees. Cal flaps set.
Alright, so taking control.
ADI is off. Landing lights. Speed good. Extending lights. Lights extended and on. Carbine. Carbine cold. Set cold. Before landing checks complete.
We still have some power in, but not very much. So I'm high and fast. I'm at flaps 50 now. Not good, not great view of the runway, but a little bit. It's going to be kind of snowy. We're off to the left just a skosh. I would hate to do this in the snow, man. If I couldn't see anything, whew, that would not be a fun day. This is feeling better, so we'll bring flaps up 40. And just keep coming right, just a smidge. Wind was still calm. We are fighting a bit, so let's bring power back up to 100 BMAP. We can really go flaps 5 at this point. Lineup's looking pretty alright. And then I think that's my water rudder. Alright, so let's see if we can do this time. I have remembered that we have flaps in this airplane, so that's a start, but 6,000 foot runway, not super short, but not as much room for error as Fairbanks or Anchorage, so. And that looks like a white and maybe a red. Feels fast. Feels fast. Vertical speed is not great. We're showing a little low. Skimming the treetops here. That's all right. All right, so that's looking good. That's feeling good. There's the threshold. Let's set it on down. Did I do it? I did do it. Okay, and there's reversers. All right. Welcome, everybody, to Galena, Alaska. PAGA, the Edward Pitka Airport. We are going to taxi off. And I neglected my radio calls, but hopefully the aviators of Alaska will forgive me. And we will taxi up to... Well, there aren't a whole lot of choices. There's a ramp over there, or there's a ramp over there. So still pretty snowy in here in mid-April. I even go as far as to say late April. And we will taxi on in. So that felt a lot better. Flaps help, especially just in that last bit. You don't fall out of the sky so aggressively. So if you want to see a retroactive, this is how we drew it up all along. I wanted to demonstrate the impact of flaps on DC-6 performance handling characteristics. But it is a good illustration of kind of what you see. And also the things you don't really think to troubleshoot when you're not in the zone of flying something consistently. Thankfully, it's not too busy here, so we'll come pull up here in front of the FBO or something. And park on up. So that's parking brakes, after landing checks. Oh, thank you, Anthony. See... That was, let's see what the damage was. 218. Not bad. All right, well, that was a fun flight. This is a fun, not a tiny airport, but a good flight for the DC-6. Now, the real flight would turn it around and head back up to Fairbanks. They also do Fort Yukon and some others around the area. But that's going to be it for us for tonight. Thanks for coming along with us on this DC-6 flight. Appreciate y'all spending your Saturday evening with us flying around rural Alaska. We'll get everything opened on up. If only it made tracks in the snow. Yeah, if only someone was clearing the snow out here. I think they'd have a snowplow or something. But hey, we'll take what we can get and not worry too much about it. So, thank y'all as always for coming along. And we will see you on the next one very soon. Take it easy, y'all.